Hi, fifth grade. We're going to start a project today, and it is going to be a test grade. I didn't want to do a traditional, like what we've been doing for quizzes, but I want to see how you can take what we've learned and apply it a different way. So you're going to have today, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, you can kind of work on it, and then by the end of the day, Thursday. So you have that whole time to work on it. And it is going to be counted as a test, so it's not going to be in the normal category of our daily assignments. It's going to be a test grade, and you're going to have different options that you can choose when doing this test. So one video that I want to show you is one of my favorite videos that I show throughout the year, and it's basically just as if a camera or as if you were on a little tiny spacecraft traveling through someone's body, because it's going to relate to what our project is about. Now, I remember when I was a kid, there was an old movie that was basically took these scientists and doctors and shrunk them, obviously this was fictional, shrunk them down to the size of a cell, one cell, and it shrunk their little space travel ship, even though it was through the body, down to the size of a cell. And doctors and scientists injected this capsule inside of a person, and the job of those people were to go and fix something, and then they had to get out of that person's body without being harmed. And I remember seeing that and be like, oh, that'd be so awesome to be shrunk down to where you could go and investigate what's happening inside the body. The movie that I saw when I was little was called Fantastic Voyage, and as you can see, this was like really cheesy. If I went back now and we watched it, it would be, we would laugh at every little thing. Like you could see the wires where people were hanging from it. But the whole idea was, that I thought was really cool, is it showed the different parts of the body and what happened if they got stuck in different parts. So your assignment is going to be to create some sort of presentation, and I'm going to give you different options of how you can present that, of how you would, if you were one blood cell and you started off in the lungs, what would the day in the life of a blood cell look like? Your job would be to describe what happens from the time you leave the lungs, enter the heart, go throughout the body, and get to the right foot to bring in oxygen, and then back up through the body, back to the lungs. And there's a whole process there that we've learned about. We've learned about how our heart has different chambers that pushes blood through. We talked about how we have veins and arteries, and that arteries take blood to different parts of the body, and that veins bring them back to the lungs. We know that when we inhale, we take in oxygen to bring to those cells, and we know that in the capillaries that the carbon dioxide gets picked up and gets brought back to the lungs in order to exhale that waste out. Now, there's a whole bunch of other steps that that we need to take into account, like how blood gets pushed through and pumped through the arteries and the veins. What were those smallest blood vessels, and what's the purpose of them? Those capillaries, right? We're going to take all that information and put it into a couple of different options. So here's what your assignment looks like. It says you are a blood cell that needs to travel from the lungs to the right foot of the person that you live in. And you have to describe how and where you would travel to get to the foot and back to the lungs. In your journey, you have to tell me these 4 things. What parts of the heart, remember there's 4 of them, 4 chambers, that you would travel through, including the major artery, which we call the what? Aorta, and the major veins, the vena cava, that you've learned about. You also need to tell me how you're pushed through the arteries and veins on your travel. You need to tell me what types of gases you would transport to and from the foot and where that would happen in the body. And then what are the types of blood vessels you would travel through? And we talked about all these different ones right here. Okay. Now here's how you can show me what you have learned in this presentation. The first choice, you're only going to choose one of these ways. You either can write a fictional story similar to that of the Fantastic Voyage that I showed you. A storyline as far as like maybe your people that have to go travel to the foot in order to, I don't know, fix it somehow, but you can only do that from the inside. So you can tell me some sort of, oops, wrong one. You can tell me some sort of fictional story where the blood cell was the narrator. You could create a poster or a diagram of the important parts of your travel. So like you could have you could draw a picture of a human body and then label the parts of the body of where that blood cell would go through, and that each of those spots you would tell me what's happening there. You could create a video news broadcast of your journey. You could make a Zoom video or a Screencast-O-Matic. You can make a video telling me about the adventures, kind of like a documentary telling me about the adventures of your travels. Or you can simply create a PowerPoint presentation of your travels, kind of like ones that you get stuck watching, like picture shows of family members and their travels. You are going to be that family member where you will show us what your travels were. Now I've included this rubric here. The rubric tells you exactly how to get a 100 on this test. You want to follow this column right here to double check your work. So the first part, in your story, the project includes the 4 chambers of the heart, the aorta, and the vena cava. You need to make sure you have those things included in your story. You need to include how the heart pumps through each chamber, how muscular arteries contract and relax, and how muscles push blood through veins. You need to include both oxygen and carbon dioxide and where that gets transported and where that goes through. Remember, we talked about our capillaries, how oxygen goes through our capillaries to the cells, and carbon dioxide is picked up at the capillaries to bring back to the lungs. You need to include all 3 blood vessels. That's arteries, including their arterioles, veins, including their venules, and the capillaries. And then in your presentation, we want to double check and edit it to make sure we don't have many errors. Now again, you have these 4 ways. If there's another way that you can think of making this happen, and you want to run it by me, shoot me an email and let me know. And if it's something I think would be worth doing or not too hard, then feel free to do that. This is the explanation. If I gave you a quick example of a story that I would write, I could do something like this. Now, I'm literally just thinking about this off the top of my head. Let's say that my name is Bob. Bob seems to be a name that you guys all like. My name is Bob, and today my job has been to bring this oxygen to the right foot because the foot fell asleep and it needs more oxygen. So what I'm going to do is I head to the lungs and I load up my oxygen and I take off through the pulmonary artery into the heart, and you talk about how it pumps through all the chambers, and then I get shot out through the aorta and move down through the arteries, the main arteries, down to the right foot. And the whole reason that I can travel down that area, down the arteries, is because I have the heart pumping, and when the heart pumps, the muscular arteries are squeezing, remember that balloon? Squeezing me through to get to the foot. Once I get to my destination, I found out that I need to travel through these tiny arterioles to get to the capillaries so that I can drop off my oxygen. Once I dropped my oxygen off, I figured out that they needed me to take carbon dioxide back to the lungs. So I said, hop on. So the carbon dioxide jumped on my back, and we took off back through the veins. We traveled up through the vena cava, because the muscles in that person's body were contracting and squeezing the veins, and all those valves made sure that I didn't fall back through, back down to the foot. And once I got back to the lungs, the person that I was traveling in decided to exhale, and I dropped off that carbon dioxide and started the whole process over again. Now, obviously, you're going to use a little more detail, but that you get the gist of it. If you have questions, guys, shoot me an email. Let me know how I can walk you through this or how I can help you. And again, if you have more ideas. Once you're done with this video, I want you to watch the second video that I show my class usually, and we talk through it, but it's kind of this journey through the body. All right, guys. Love you. Actually, I'm just kidding. I'm going to show you this video in my video. So enjoy this short video. All right, here we go. So we start off in the mouth. And you can see he's looking at all the teeth. And as we go through the teeth, we see a cavity. And that cavity needs to be filled in right here. So we're going to blast out the yucky stuff and replace it with an enamel to fix it. Once we fix that, we're going to keep moving. A little dangly thing at the back of your mouth. Helps with your gag reflex. But guess what? We're not going down to the stomach. I'm inhaling with my nose and going up into the sinuses. We're in the sinuses. Oh man. Now our sinuses are connected to our eardrums as well, and this is the ear. You can see how sound is vibrating off of these. These are actually the 3 smallest bones in the body. And it sends a message to your brain. Now we're inside your brain, and all these different things are neurons that are connecting. And anytime you learn something new, a neuron connects. So right now, the fact that you just learned that neurons connect when you learn something new, you've connected a neuron in your brain. And you have millions of these in your brains from everything that you've ever learned. Whew. There we go. Once we travel through your brain, there's your brain. There is a blood clot that needs to get clipped and fixed. So we're going to take a laser, we're going to clip it out and see if we can find it. Well, there it is. Now we've clipped it and prevented a stroke. Good job, guys. All right, let's keep traveling. Now we're going to go through the spinal column here. This is where here we go. And we are entering the heart. Oh my goodness, look at all this electrical shocks that are happening in our, what's that called again? The pacemaker. Very good, and the heartbeat. Here's the aorta and the pulmonary arteries. Check that out. We're going to go into the heart. And while we're in the heart, look at all these blood cells that are being pumped through the valves of the atrium. Look at that. All the red blood cells. Here we go. We're traveling through an artery. You can see we're going down into the spine. Now we're in the kidneys. We're going into the kidneys. And we have a kidney stone. Well, that's not good. It's too big to pass through. So we're going to take ultrasound and we're going to blast it. Get rid of that kidney stone. Alright, success. Now we're going down into the femoral artery. Oh no, we have a clot, a blockage there. So we're going to try and clean that blockage out. We're going to take a laser and we're going to scrape it all out and suction it out. And now that blood will flow no problem. Prevent that heart attack. And then we are done. All right. Guys, I hope that gave you some good ideas and inspiration to start your project. Again, you have 2 days. If you feel like 2 days isn't going to be enough and we need to extend it through this long weekend, we can always do that. But again, it's a test grade, so follow the rubric. And I can't wait to see what you guys do and what your projects look like. All right. Bye, guys.